Welcome back. The first Republican primary debate is coming up in less than 2 weeks, and former President Trump says he will not be signing the RNC's loyalty pledge that is required to participate.
When you're at 75, 78, 80%, and other guys are at 0, 1%, 2%, 3%, you do say, what's the upside? Am I going to go up 1 point? But they could go up. You know, they're not dumb people. They're senators. They're governors, they're intelligent people. You have some very good people. I think you have some very good people, and you have some people. I mean, I have a problem with the debate for another reason. I wouldn't sign the pledge. Why would I sign a pledge? There's people on there that I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have certain people as, you know, somebody that I'd endorse. So they want you to sign a pledge. But I can name 3 or 4 people that I wouldn't support for president.
Meanwhile, The Hill is reporting that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has signed the loyalty pledge. According to the outlet, DeSantis and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy are the only 2 GOP candidates to have met the other qualifications for the first debate and signed the pledge. Joining us from Des Moines, Iowa, is Republican presidential candidate and former governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson. It's great to have you back on the show. So what is it going to take to get on that debate stage? Is it possible?
Oh, absolutely. We've met the criteria for polling, which was a big lift for us. But then secondly, we have to have 40,000 donors. We're over halfway there, but we've got a ways to go. We got a couple weeks to do it. So the answer is, if you want want somebody on the debate stage that will speak the truth about Donald Trump, go to asa2024.com, give us $1. That helps us get there. And so it's all up to the people of America to help us to get on that debate stage. I expect to be there, and I look forward to it.
Governor, what's the most pressing issue facing America over the next 4 years?
Well, you start with the economy. And while President Biden talks about how great the economy is, the fact is inflation has now been baked into the price of goods, and that strains the pocketbooks of families. Secondly, the interest rates are up, which causes it more difficult for young people to get homes, to buy a car. So it's the economic issues that's going to be focused on in 2024. As part of that is our energy policy. And whenever you look at our energy policy, I do believe we need to have environmentally friendly means of production, but we've got to produce. We've got to produce from all sources because that's an integral part of the success of our economy as well.
Right. But Governor, the report was yesterday, I think, from the Energy Department that the United States is producing more oil than ever before. This is going to be a record-breaking year. Do we need to do even more than that?
Well, I do think we do. We have to have a consistent energy policy, and that was the challenge with President Biden. At first, he said he wanted to go all green, and then we wound up going to Venezuela and others, Saudi Arabia, to say, hey, can you produce more? And so that's not a good position for the United States of America. So whenever there is turmoil in the world, we need to have consistent production, and we have to have sufficient energy that we can help support our allies and friends as well.
Governor, how do you square that with what we've seen over the course of the summer, what we saw in Hawaii just yesterday, which is all of the evidence, the mounting evidence of climate change and a planet that is rapidly warming? Would you keep on some of what President Biden has done in terms of climate change agenda?
Well, some of it would stay in place, but whenever you look at what I just said, we need to have a pro-growth energy policy, but we need to produce in as environmentally sensitive way as we can. But we can't penalize the United States with our holding back on our production if the world is not going to meet their obligations as well. And so, yes, we need to take the environment and climate change very seriously. It starts with each individual. The government has a responsibility. I just worry about not artificial, but timelines that are too severe that really makes us in jeopardy in terms of our economy, but also in terms of our quality of life and our competitiveness with other countries.
Governor, it's almost startling to hear a presidential candidate in the Republican Party talking about issues. Clearly, your party has drifted from the things that I always heard Republicans talk about: smaller government, energy production, free trade policies. But I want to circle back to the debate. I want to circle back to this requirement that you have to find 20,000 more people to give you at least $1 in order for you to get on the debate stage. What I watched, which was fascinating to me, is you have a couple of really rich candidates. I think the governor in South Dakota or wherever, Bergrum or whatever his name is, and the other guy who's a rich tech guy, they're offering people $20 to give them $1. Now, call me old-fashioned, but that feels like you're buying somebody's vote and support, which last time I looked was not an American principle of democracy. As a prosecutor, I would have gone, and I know you've been a prosecutor, I would have gone after people who were trying to buy people's votes or participation in a democracy like a debate. So what is your feeling about that? Should they be looked at by the FEC, that frankly is pretty a toothless wonder at this point? Shouldn't that be wrong that they're paying people to give them money?
No, I'm not criticizing them and their means of collecting the 40,000, but the fact is I'm not a self-funded candidate, and the RNC rules is burdensome on the candidates to, instead of focusing on other ways of raising money and focusing on other styles of campaigning, I've got to spend all of my time at the Iowa State Fair trying to get on the debate stage with $1 contributions. And so that's not helpful, and it's not good for our democratic process. When you talk about the issues, though, I just want to make this point that I'm one of in the minority. I'd just soon Donald Trump not participate in the debate simply because we want to talk about the issues, and I think there's a lot of contrast between the Republican candidates as it stands, and it'd be nice to be able to have that serious policy discussions. But if he participates, he will be the focus, and I'll be out there speaking the truth about he's not the right leader for our country.
All right, Republican presidential candidate, former Governor Asa Hutchinson, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning.